So yeah, you hit me up. Let me know. Some people almost got liquidated, man, and I had
Yeah,
a
not
few people that let me
almost.
know. So we had hedged
Actually,
bets.
yeah. Well, you know what? I figured out what it was. It was one of the ultra swap algo efficiency loans.
Hmm.
And I could see how that would be a little harder, but still hedging it correctly. You're right. The algo efficiency ultra swap leverage loans on folks finance, they only allow you to like borrow and collateralize in certain assets.
Hmm.
And so, I guess he had too much borrow in algo and not enough in collateral. So,
And
yeah.
specifically in USDC, right? So
Yes. Well,
having
that's
more
what I'm saying.
USDC.
In
Hmm.
that particular ultra swap loan, I guess I could just share my screen, huh? Probably just show you what I'm talking about.
That'll work
Um,
as well.
yeah. Let's see where we get it. Oh yeah. Is it sharing?
Currently it's still black for me.
Okay.
All right, now it's up. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there we go. All right. So
Yeah, I was actually expecting for the markets to react in a way, especially given a lot of
yeah.
the macroeconomic factors that we were facing moving into this week, right? So
Yeah, I was
executive
kind
orders
of
pop up,
I was curious
and that's the
myself
first
on
thing. But
how yeah, I was curious myself on how everybody was going to respond to these tariffs and everything. My
yes,
internet
indeed.
is
Well, actually, it's a
slow.
good
So
thing for
honestly, if you
DeFi
look,
though.
mine are like super low right now just because of that same, with algo tank. But I always hedge mine to where I'm never gonna really worry about that. But I did have to do some adjustments. So this is like an one of the ones I'm talking about. If you actually take your G algo and stuff, which you can be using for governance as well, right? But see, this like you're gonna build
Right, right,
the APR, right? From what you stake and everything, and then you can do a leveraged commitment loan, right? To where you're going to take that, but if you notice, you can only borrow and collateralize in algo, G algo, and X algo. And so I believe this might have been one of the ones that Nathan got liquidated on, or if it's not this, you can also go to here to the stake and you can stake too. And the same thing, you're going to build, you know, interest and then you can, stake what you want and you can 4x, you can do one, two, three, or 4x the leverage.
right.
And
I'm familiar, and they also give you the X algo as well as a reward,
yeah,
which you can also leverage. Right.
yes.
So yeah, if we're talking
I
about
don't
the G algo
know.
loans and the things that introduce leverage as being the
Yeah,
ones being liquidated, then that's not necessarily something that we're really too worried about in the
right,
grand scheme of things, unless that is we're exiting out of the governance period early, right? So with
right.
X
Well,
algo, the
that's
reason
the
why they're
thing.
allowing us to stake,
He had
yes.
a lot. He had a lot in one of these leverage loans. So he actually did
Mhm.
when it liquidated, it cost him quite a bit. But I'm not sure if he detached or not, right? Because when you first just commit this to the ultra stakes or whatever, it's just going to give you like a basic algo efficiency loan, right? But then you can go and detach it, which is what I've done, right? Because I'm not going to leave anything up to chance. And then you can actually control. It's still only X algo and algo though, right? So you can only do X algo and algo in the borrow. So you have to like borrow the algo, convert it to X algo, and collateralize. Um, but I'm not sure if he did that or if he just kind of left it alone. I'm not sure.
Well, either way, we still only have two assets that we're dealing with for the most part.
Yeah.
If it's not Algo and USDC, then it's X Algo and Algorand itself. Because
Right.
when you
So,
stake some of that Algorand, they give you the X Algo, and then that's something that
mhm.
you can use to push back directly.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if that was the deal or not, but I mean, it still sucks, when somebody loses some money.
Right,
You
right.
want to share
But
your screen and go ahead and go over some of the things you were wanting to touch on?
It's one, two, and three. It's real point blank period. So we only have one or two assets that we're using when there's a supply or when there's a demand, there's a supply, and vice versa, right? So
Hmm.
X algo being a reward that you get for staking, is something that we're using in tandem with the leverage. So if you're going to use leverage, detached or attached loans, no matter what, we're making sure that we're using a portion of that X algo, and you can use that in your
Yes.
regular loan as well, right? So that's another
Yes.
thing that you can do.
That's what I do
Um,
as well. You can
yeah, and
actually,
that'll
and
be
then
a
you can add it into liquidity too.
exactly. However, if you're actually trying to make sure that you keep those liquidation margins viable or just keeping away from being liquidated, right? Because
Right.
actually, as the markets are going down, my liquidation margin is going up, so I can borrow more from the
Yeah.
market. So earlier it was 13, now I'm able to borrow around 16, and I'm just letting that climb up.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
what
can
I
borrow
did.
that
As a
in
matter of fact,
USDC.
all of mine are down to 10% on those
Yes.
three loans. I just went in there and I used it to my advantage. Like when you hedge your loans correctly and you've got enough USDC in your collateral to cover all the borrow, you're not losing anything. And like you said, when the market's going down, I'm literally borrowing as much as I can because I'm going to borrow
Yeah.
it while it's low, right? So I'll go. This is like the first time that everything's been down like this. I'm like, hell yeah, sweet, I'm buying it all. So I borrowed in everything and then paid it off because it's low, right? And then just borrow it again and pay it back off. And then I take what I borrow and either collateralize it or put it in liquidity. So when it jumps back up, all that Bitcoin, all that ETH, all that algo, all that shit I've been borrowing while it's super, super low, it's just going to jump back up. And guess what's going with it? What I tie in liquidity.
Yeah, so let's talk as though it's just you and I in here, right? So these are some of the things that people can
Oh,
learn
yeah, yeah,
more
you're
about
right. You're right. I
from
keep
uh
forgetting
from
that
Wealth
you're.
Wave and things of this sort. But moving directly into the macroeconomics, the DeFi consulting, and then the mass adoption, because those are the things that are really affecting our positions, right? So in terms of just being able to understand what supply and demand is, that's a brief, you know what I'm saying, into reading the
Mhm.
markets. But
Yes.
we're really only looking at the decentralized innovations, right? So what is it that's related to peer-to-peer transactions, transactions per second, and then the total value locked. So a lot of the things that make people take their money out of DeFi are not related to the things that are in
Right.
the traditional market. So
I
where
know.
supply and demand is really prevalent is more so in the paradigm, right? So it's in the speculative nature of the investing into the asset itself, right? So
Right.
because these assets in DeFi are based off of mainly utility, where we have meme coins, right? Where we have
Right.
meme coins, then they can create utility, right? That can be
Right.
established too. A lot of these assets that are on chain already are, how should I say, they're tied to the speculative nature of the freedom of the press, the freedom of the
Right.
technology, the ability for people to have control of their own money. For example, the IMF deal, right? When
Yeah.
Bitcoin slid down a few more dollars, it was that 3 days ago, 4 days ago now.
Yeah.
Today is the third.
You're talking about the
Everyone
El
was talking
Salvador
about
thing, right?
yes. So
Yeah.
with that specifically, El Salvador, they didn't say that hey, we're no longer using Bitcoin at all. They said now it's voluntary, right? So
Yes.
because it's still something that people as a legal tender, as it was established as legal tender, people have adopted the crypto, which was the main point. So now that you have
That's the
adopted the
point.
crypto,
Right.
that's where we were looking at that. You
Well,
want to
yeah,
say
that's
something? I'm
what we got to do too. We got to get people like at least used to or familiar with the idea that they have options. Like, most people, literally, even smart ones, they still think that they have no choice. Even
You
they
know,
do. They feel
yeah,
they
that's
have to
facts.
participate in the financial system as it is, and you just got to really wake them up to the. Man, you know how many ways I've transferred value that had nothing to do with the Federal Reserve note?
Exactly. So, in
It's
that same
insane.
regard, though, limiting the choice, right? So, what I like about El Salvador's deal is something that not a lot of news reporters are pointing out, but this is something that internally, and of course, as this will be posted on YouTube or throughout the ecosystem, we can all start to use and share. A lot of people were saying, okay, now it's looking bad for Bitcoin because now El Salvador isn't supporting, when really that's not the case at all.
No.
It costs money to make money. So if the
Mm.
IMF is giving them $1.3 billion, whatever the
What do you
case may
think they're
be,
doing with it?
exactly. And now they're not only richer from a monetary standpoint by having a debt instrument, but they also have assets that have accumulated that they
Hmm.
can use in tandem with that debt instrument. And now that their
Right.
people are more aware of how the technology works, they had to, let's say, trial run, quote unquote. It was a
Yeah,
forced
beta
adoption, right?
test or something. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Now people will be able to say, okay, I'll take my Bitcoin down to the bank and see what they give me for interest. Okay, I'll take my Bitcoin and get a loan. Let's see what the and once they start to experience the efficiency of using Bitcoin, now we'll actually have more of an adoption thing. So I think that the El Salvador thing was a very long term play. But by bracing for the impact, people who aren't looking for the long term adoption of DeFi, they're like, oh, Bitcoin is no longer legal tender. Boom, they're going to take their money out.
Yeah, they're gonna
So
drop. Pull out.
there's a vast majority of people who have invested in the cryptocurrency without really knowing why they've invested or what
Yeah,
it's
they just did
capable
it
of.
because it was a fad or a trend, or their buddy did it, or a lot of it was when that first kind of rush of crypto millionaires happened. They've seen so many people that just like overnight, was rich as hell, and that made a bunch of people go and invest into a bunch of shit that they didn't even know what it was, man. It's like another GameStop or something.
Yeah,
A bunch of people
yeah.
just bought in because somebody else told them to.
Just like the forex
Yeah,
fiasco, right? So for a good
yeah,
minute, everybody around the world was getting into forex, and they happened
getting
to
their
be expert
mouth ripped out.
millionaires, right?
I
So
know,
that's
man.
another thing. We have that anonymity in terms of being decentralized, but it's also being on chain, right? So once you
Yeah,
do have identifying factors or you do understand utility, you can identify pretty much when someone is faking the funk or not. And
yeah,
markets definitely are, since they're 24 hours, so they're reactive, right? Last
yeah.
night, I literally took two of my loans. I had two loan. One loan I take out like every 2 weeks or so, skim off the top. Another loan I use it for like large purchases, so it might be equipment, it might be books, whatever the case may be. I took
That's
out the
smart.
one. Yeah, I took the one out that
No,
I
yeah, no,
usually
that's
use
that's
every
a good
week.
idea because I usually just kind of go in there, and I mean I do similar to that, except I'll set up multiple loans to support my main loan in whatever way I would need it, right? But I still play it by kind of like feel like if I had more of a, oh, I'm going to use this loan just for this and this just because I might not check mine for a few days or something, and I'll get in there, and depending on like what the conditions are at that time, then I'll or what I'm intending to do, then I'll take my course of action. But that's really smart actually. Like if I just hmm
Yeah,
that
it helps me
appreciate that
not to
one.
micromanage it, right? So it helps me keep
Yeah,
a
yeah,
wider eye, and it also helps me to use and choose assets in my loan,
yeah,
specifically in the regular loan. Let's not even talking about the staking and some of those new features because I'm adding
yeah.
money from my
Honestly,
liquidity
that's
pools into that. So
yeah.
I'm
Get
I'm
your
pulling
basic structure first, right? I
right,
just did
right.
that I did that honestly because I redeemed the G Algo, here recently.
Mm.
It gave you the little notification to pull all of it from liquidity or loans or whatever and redeem. And so I redeemed it, and then you get your reward. And when I got like the G Algo came back or whatever, I just went ahead and set up some of those just because I wanted to see. For one, like I knew that I was going to do better than the standard efficiency loan. But I just wanted to play it. That's the first time I'd ever set one up, so I just wanted to see what it was like. And
Yeah,
I
so
don't know if I really do it again. Maybe I will just to have a little, but I don't like the fact that I'm limited to you know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. So you're actually getting rewarded for testing out the feature. It's not
Yeah,
necessarily made to make you money. It's made to give you
right.
more of awareness for governance and also to give you a diversified pool of assets. So they might give you a asset that because let's say I notice when you use X algo in a typical loan, if you were to swap that into Algorand, it doesn't have much of an impact, if any impact at all on your
Yeah.
liquidation margin. So it's valued around about the same. Whereas you could take Algorand and swap a portion of that into USDC while in that same loan from
Hmm.
your collateral, having that borrow run, and then still make use of that higher liquidation margin.
Yeah.
Which when I'm looking to hedge a bet, now that I was saying, I've taken my two loan strategy and I've combined it into one loan. This is something Walt told me to do
Yeah.
probably about a year
I've
ago now.
I've done that as well.
Yeah, yeah,
I
it helps.
honestly
It
I just
helps.
set those other two little small loans up because I was able to get in there and play the rat Bitcoin for a long time, man. When I would borrow in USDC and then collateralize into wrap Bitcoin,
Hmm.
man, it was just like those pennies would just like add up in the wallet back to back to back. And so I would just
Okay.
do that. And then so
I
I
got a
literally I
example
set
for you
aside that
as
loan
well.
just for wrap Bitcoin. And then they
I got an
finally
example
started
for you as
like
well.
blocking my
We
transactions.
have pro Bitcoin and pro crypto administration in office right now, right?
I know.
In a lot of ways, this is the most reactionary we'll see the market for coming future, especially until we have more of a stable base of people who are providing value on chain, right? So,
Exactly.
from
Utility.
a
I think
paradigm,
honestly, if anything, a lot of people are
oh,
gonna run to it. And from the way my mind works, I'm always thinking bigger picture. If I was in charge, that's exactly what I would do. That's how I'd play it, right? Everybody gets everything, the currency and the tariffs, and now they're talking about they're going to increase tariffs, and all the value of the dollar is going to go down, and all this bullshit, right? What a perfect way to like introduce people to crypto. Well, hey, here's this solution: decentralized finance. That's the way I'd have
yep.
played it.
So in the same way, centralized finance. So when we talk about
Exactly.
we're talking about centralized and decentralized in this aspect. Centralized finance uses a lot of the same tactics that we see a lot of successful projects using in the DeFi space. However,
Yes.
the difference is that they have to use the traditional, how should I say, media channels, the fear
Mm.
mongering, the back and forth bickering on.
Propaganda,
Yes, the
all that.
propaganda has to be a part of it. So, in a lot of ways, because decentralized finance is straight to the point, straight to the nitty gritty, is nobody
Hmm.
really to hold your hand in the space. All of the hand holding we see is very strategic,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to cryptocurrency. So, for the moment, it's extremely transparent. But this man is signing so many executive orders. A lot
Yeah,
of
I'm glad you went there because that's what I was
yeah,
saying too. It's like, dude, the regulations and shit, they're coming.
yep,
They're coming. So, you know what I mean? For now, you're lucky that it's just Coinbase, crypto.com, the centralized exchanges. Um, I'm curious to see how they're going to try to implement the taxes, right? Because they were trying to do it to where the moment you traded a currency for another, that was a taxable event, right? They tried to
yes.
push for that, but they didn't get that. But
Well,
I
think
am
about it like
curious.
utility, right? So, in the same way, that's why I wanted to also talk about DeFi consulting because once these regulations start coming in, if you are spending your crypto on providing better services for your business, providing gift cards for
Hmm.
your community and rewards,
Then those are
providing
all tax
liquidity, whatever the
write-offs.
case may be, these will be things that if you can tax me for having crypto, you can not tax me for putting it away. It'll
Right.
be you'll have to admit that it's an asset class on paper and then give it
And
even
and
more value.
couldn't we just do an exchange, right? As long as we don't realize the gain, they can't tax it, man. That's the rule.
Exactly.
So, I mean, all literally, you just wouldn't technically trading Bitcoin for Ethereum, wouldn't that be just exchanging? You're still in an
Yes.
asset that fluctuates. You're still, so that's why I'm curious. That's why I say I wonder how are they going to. The only way it makes sense to me is they'd have to do it to where once you either send it to a centralized exchange or transfer it to whatever currency in whatever country you're at. That would probably be the taxable event. But even then, I don't know. What if you did that and lost? What if the
Yeah.
money you
Yeah.
transferred in
So
was
that's why
less?
I'm
Are you gonna?
saying
Yeah,
it's more than
I don't know
likely
how
going
they're
to
gonna
be
do it, man.
an individual with the asset in and of itself. It's merit based. So think about some of the narratives that have kind of like taken the nation in the last few months. Even matter of fact, let's be very specific. In the last few weeks, we've talked about in within block cycle. I'll say the ecosystem. We've talked about how distant we are from some of the immediate impacts of the market.
Mhm.
So once people are starting to get taxed, we still have a little bit of wiggle room, right? As soon as you get
Right,
some money on Coinbase, if you send it to Parawallet,
right.
boom. As long as you're
And
not
then
sending
another
it out
thing
to
too,
cash it out, you're good,
we're
right?
not starting when they start, right? So we already know the ways to get around this and get around that and do this and that. So really, we're a leg up already. That's why
So a
everybody that's
service
on
based
board.
economy too. So we have
Yes,
merit based, but then to create, how can you have merit if you have no education, you have no money,
there's no value
and
to offer. There's nothing
right,
to merit.
right. So then it would have to be in the assets and the things that are
Right.
created, in the creative property and the intellectual property and the hard physical manufacturing of, let's say, metals, and taking
Right.
America back to that stance has a global impact. So in the macroeconomic standard, I'm looking at the narrative that we have as Americans, because we do have the dollar, right?
We do.
Um, I'm
And
looking
we
at that
also have that
narrative.
entitlement issue and thinking that it's forever, which
Exactly.
is not good.
It's not. It's not. One thing I will say though is you're very cold and calculating when you know your position is at risk. You see what I'm
Yes.
saying? So
Yes.
I wouldn't want to go against the scared dollar. I'll say it like that.
I wouldn't
Um,
want to go against anything if everything depends on it. You know what I'm
hmm.
saying?
I see what you're saying. I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. In a lot of ways, that's traditional finance versus decentralized, and you know what I'm saying. All of these other ways that we have coming, right? So,
You know,
in a
that's
lot
one
of
thing
ways,
I'm going to really kind of drive the point home on at this conference is, well, we spoke about it, right? Like they're annuities. When you stake and get rewards, they're fucking annuities. We know it. It's exactly the same, structure the same, but we can't call it that because of legal implications, right? You have to say shit like, well, they're similar too. But that, okay, so that's exactly like an annuity payment. Then you have there's okay, so just trading cryptocurrency in general is exactly like trading forex. You're
in a
literally
lot of
playing
ways,
the value of one
the end
currency.
result that you get, yes. The only difference is the
But I mean,
technology.
yeah, there's huge differences. But I'm saying, like, as far as the basics, it's they just kind of copied the already existing systems, and then you've got all these new utilizations and implications that come with it, which is really the part that I think they didn't expect, or maybe they did, right? Because it's
Yes.
not really the fact that like we can have our money personally to be able to hold and use. We could do that with a Federal Reserve note, right? It's the fact that we have the power to create an asset and add value to it without their backing and certifications and their fucking stamp on it. That's where the issue is. They don't care about it. They let you have as much, you can literally have as much cash in duffel bags as you want, right? They're not coming and doing anything about that because they're still Federal Reserve notes that they control the distribution and creation of, right? Cryptocurrency, I can control it all. I can
Hmm.
be my own centralized governing entity, which I'm supposed to be anyway. We're all supposed to be.
And that's why an accelerator like Block Cycle and the entire ecosystem, like Wealth Wave, like Live from the
Exactly.
Living Room, and like the
And
various
member
aspects, that's more
services,
important.
the whole thing we got going, man. This really is a movement of trying to just wake people up for one and utilize what, because most people really, they think that they're nobody. They think that, oh, I'm just like one person and I don't know all this fancy legal jump, all that shit, that all those excuses not to do something. Man, there's something you got that's valuable to offer always, right?
Yes, indeed.
Maybe you can't invest as good as I can, but maybe you know how to build the fuck out of a house,
There we
right?
go.
There we go. Let's exchange.
And with that being said, the macroeconomics aspect is something that I really want to focus in on, from a creative's perspective, just in the light that a lot of the intellectual property that we have out here now that is not monetized, like a lot of people spend a lot of time just scrolling on TikTok, scrolling on Facebook,
Mhm.
and a lot of that time is about to be turned into like do or die. And what I mean by that is if we're moving into a merit based situation, your resume needs to actually show that you know what you're
Yes.
doing now. Now you'll
Yes.
actually be tested
You
on
know
some of the
what?
things that
We
you say you can do.
probably need to uh, do something specifically on what that means because I'm sure people's going to hear us talk about merit based. They're probably not understanding like the gravity of that.
Okay.
Think
Yeah.
about it. I mean, we're talking like social credit scores. We're talking about transactional histories that are just there for anybody to see. There's a lot of things coming that are going to be put into the whole merit based thing on like the global scale.
Facts. Facts. And okay, in a lot of ways I could simplify it with the elimination of DEI, right? So
Hmm.
in a lot of ways, people were attacking it or upset about it because of the specific 1965 restrictions or the things that they took out. But really, what that is open market is making it.
Yeah.
more fair and equitable to those who are already making moves, but to those who are looking for ways to become competent and self-sufficient and struggling already, it's going to become a lot harder without
Yes.
support, without a team, without, you know what I'm saying, something
Yeah.
to how should I say, add value to your local vicinity. And then you can take that group effort and that group economic strategy into the
And
larger market successfully. So businesses will be a lot more tight knit. You'll
yeah.
probably see a lot more manufacturing in America. We'll probably
Yeah.
have a few warehousing jobs pop back up, and even more so because technology is outpacing us to the point where it'll be cheaper to have technology doing things. What we'll have to rely on if we go merit based is a hiccup, right? So
Yeah.
China is still messing around with AI, but it's not as advanced. They can't really rely on it. They're still messing around with social credit scores, but there's ways around that system. And if they
Mhm.
implement it all at the same time, there's a massive implications for how they do business with other countries that don't have that credit system, how they're training their people under that dogma, under the CCP or whatever the case may be. Because in
Right.
the same way, our propaganda machine here in America also has us trained to, how should I say, look for shortcuts,
Mhm.
look for ways
Yeah,
to
exactly.
value.
Conditioned to want it all easy and given to you. Right.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
creates lazy societies, which creates, demasculine men. And we all know you need masculine men to fight a war.
What's that say? They say a strong man create easy times,
Yeah.
easy times create
A weak
weak
man
men
creates
create
hard
hard
ones.
times.
And that's the truth.
So
That's the truth.
in the same way, though, a strong mind, right? A strong mind makes good
Yes.
times.
Well, there's
So
more than just muscle that makes a strong man, too.
there we go. There we go. So ethical values and I feel like that'll be it'll show its head with us being in a merit based society as well. Because now if it's more like I can't rely on you just having some money in the bank to go get a loan. Now your
Right.
business actually has to be performing and
Exactly.
your people actually have to be doing what they say. So
Yeah. You
for
got
us to even work
qualifications
together.
and criteria that has to be lived up to now. Right.
Yes.
And you know
Yes.
what?
So
So in a way, it really could. I'm not gonna say it's gonna make it a lot harder for people who are, like you said, already struggling. Right. We all know that fines and fees are punishments for the poor. Right.
hmm,
Um, so if you're in that case, it's going to make it a lot harder. But let's say you're a successful businessman, or maybe you're not super successful, you're starting out, but you're a good and an honest and a fair businessman, right? But in your field, you're up against nothing but cutthroat, you know, my family over yours type people, right? Where
yeah.
you're going to be at a disadvantage because they're going to cut every corner, they're gonna fucking take every shortcut. They're gonna use every opportunity to fuck you over, right? And the whole time you're gonna try to be respectful and humble and stay within honor. So you're really kind of getting screwed. Yeah, shit like that merit-based system would even that out a little.
Yeah, it would, and in a lot of ways, that's the point. But another
Yeah,
caveat, and I think the thing that people are really worried about with this whole DEI thing specifically, right, is if we were never given the training as the common folk in the CPS or I'm sorry, the
yeah,
public school system, regardless of where you're at, right,
right.
in the nation, then you're not going to have as much of an understanding of how to apply merit to group economic situations because we've been in survival mode. Like,
Right, right.
so,
Barely making it.
right. So the last 10,
How are we
20
gonna teach you how to
years,
make it when we barely made it?
right. And it's been like this for generations, right? So now the approach to schooling, I feel like education is going to be extremely interesting. And
It's
I actually
going
shared
to
this
be
with
the
member
biggest
services too.
industry leading coming like the future. I promise you.
Yeah, and
Education,
the
yeah,
billionaires report said too,
education is going to be
72% of
the
them.
biggest producer of everything, revenue, advancement. Like I promise you, just look at everything that's happened in 4 months with us in Block Cycle, in Wealthwave, in Member Services, and man, we got there's so many groups now. I don't even know how many we got.
So actually, right now, vicariously, there's around 15 different groups.
Yeah, I see. I was about
Um,
to say it's like 13, 14 the last time I was like just went through and you
yeah,
know. So
yeah, and
think about that. That's 15 groups, right? That's been started.
mm,
And it ain't like me and Walt just started all them either. Like these are
yeah,
other community members that came into what we were doing. And then like well, we got 10 minutes. They came into what we were doing and then did exactly what we are, which is accelerated their learning and ability to use DeFi and cryptocurrency with what they already had going, and now is branching off, right? So it's like franchising on its own.
Right. Yeah, so that's what
You got
DeFi
to be doing something
consulting
right.
is, right? So decentralized consulting is really being able to connect you with individuals who understand how to utilize platforms, tools, got in at higher rates. They have cheaper assets because they got stable loans, things of the sort earlier, all different types of things. It's not necessarily just the skill set of knowing how to use these platforms, right?
No,
And
because
I've
we
been
got some
training
people
people on
that
this.
that are, specifically like Nathan. He knows everything about yield farming on Cometa. I know nothing about it except for how to get in there and just do my thing like I would on any platform. But he literally all of you are able to just efficiently and very very professionally elaborate like your wording, the way you say it, the way you're able to kind of relay the message to someone. It sounds intelligent as hell. You're still one of those people that you listen to and think, man, that's a smart motherfucker. But you say it in a way that's like easily digestible for someone who probably doesn't know what the hell you're talking about.
I really
So there's
appreciate that too. I've been
no,
working
I'm
on that.
serious. Like that's why I like getting on these calls with you because like I'll be thinking of, like I know how to work in my head, but sometimes relaying that message in a way so someone else can understand it, I'm not really that good at. I'm actually not good at just choosing my words wisely. I'm working on it. So I like that because you helped me to kind of be able to realize, okay, yeah, if I say it like that, then it would kind of be you and Walt. Walt, he teaches me to stay calm and just kind of chill and stay on stay on the course, and you're actually helping me to be able to relay all the complex thoughts and systems that are in my head.
For sure, for sure. And I appreciate, you know what I'm saying, you giving me the opportunity to assist where I can. You know, when we originally started off building with Block Cycle, we have a lot of people that took the information and ran with it in Forex and did stuff with stocks. Like I
Yeah,
was teaching stocks and taking this information and showing people how to read the charts. And I was
yeah.
like, hey, if these charts seem like they're the same, how likely is it for me to be able to make money in the same way? And once I started to test that and bring that and share that, a lot of people were able to create other streams of value, right? So when I say adoption of crypto, in a lot of ways, I'm talking about any cryptocurrency, but I'm also talking about the skill set because it's barter
Yes,
based, right? So like if you're able to borrow, let's say $10 from your friend and you're making $20 just cutting grass and you give him $15, you only needed $2, but now you got five in profit.
right,
Did you have to do some work? Yes, but now you, your friend, that's your social credit score. In a lot of ways,
right.
DeFi kind of teaches you to have a more, how should I say, a cohesive community, right?
Yeah,
It shows you
yeah, it
how to
does.
build equity with one another and make sure that that value is spread based off of
You know
merit,
what? That
right?
is
So
a
the
good
more you
point.
got in, the more you will earn.
That is a really good point that I haven't really thought about it like that. It is kind of conditioning people to be uh, a little more social, but not just social in a social way, but social in an economic and a, like a more how the word it's kind of like most people keep their finances secret, right? But this is teaching people how, except for like rich people, they don't do that, right? They share wealth. They go they do contracts and do businesses together, and it's only the people that really don't understand money and the way it works that feel like they need to keep everything private and don't tell anybody about their taxes, and it's just so it's like I think that could be conditioned too, but the DeFi is teaching you how to be social with your finances and economically, which is the only way you're really going to understand how economics work.
Right, right, doing it. So like Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Everybody talks about
Yeah,
this book, and I love the book. I love the idea, but what I really love about this idea, right, is the fact that the guy who wrote the book gets his story wrong in so many places. He doesn't
yeah,
really know when he got rich. He doesn't know how he got rich. The story has changed from him getting rich in the 80s and 84, 86 to him sleeping in his car in 84 and 86 and not having a successful business, right? So long story short, the motivation that he got to write that story was enough to actually create multimillionaires,
mhm,
regardless of if his story was true or not. He was able to extract those lessons. And in a lot of ways, the story is the inverse for DeFi, right? You can
right.
only have those lessons and those experiences, and you can only speak on it from truth based off of your subjective time that you put in to do it. to learn it, to strategize, because the answers are there in a lot
Right.
of ways. I found out, like, from the last Wealth Wave session we had, where Nathan was showing us how to really go ahead and make the most of our loans. He was talking about it's an artwork, right? It's an
Yeah.
art piece. Every
It is.
strategy is different, and you can get the same result in a completely different way. So DeFi consulting opens it up for any industry, right? So with
Yeah.
member services, what I'm focused on is making sure that we all have, this will be coming out next week, and we'll have another chat cycle for sure. But everybody will have templates so they can start their own DeFi consulting business. You don't have to have any credentials to be a consultant or to be a life coach, for example. And
Yeah.
especially if you come through one of the systems created by Wealth Wave or created by Member Service or created by anybody in the ecosystem. Those are your credentials, right? So there'll be more and more ways for you to earn additional credentials as you build your skill set. But also, there'll be more opportunities for you to connect different industries as not only the technology progresses, but as people start to realize how big of an opportunity this is, right?
And that's
So,
exactly what's going to happen. People are starting to wake up, and they're starting to really realize, like, wait a minute, man, you know what? This is something that's important. We need to, we need to be paying attention to this. And like you said, the merit-based system is coming, right? What better way to start it than to already have some merit built up with a community that's got tons of merit, right? Go ahead, check us out. We there,
exactly. Exactly. Out in the
and we
open, ain't
doing
nothing hiding,
everything.
nothing too high,
Right.
right?
And we're literally we got a whole team, a whole network around the world that's hungry, bro. We out there trying to find new ways to utilize this shit. I'm looking for uranium backed cryptocurrencies and male gold and silver, and oh, they coming out with palladium and palladium, whatever the hell you call it, like platinum. They got platinum and all of it. Right.
Yeah,
I'm looking
yeah.
for
I'm
that kind
actually
of stuff.
working with Chris. I think you'll enjoy this, and I have no problem sharing this since people will be able to check in on this as well. We actually are looking into those LLCs, and you know what I'm saying, really going the standard route, the traditional route. But we're
Yeah,
also
me
looking
too.
to bring lucrative opportunities to you all. So I'm looking into partnering with an aggregating company, so
Well,
they take
you know
different
what?
minerals,
Look,
sand, and stuff over here.
I'll go ahead and drop something on you. I'm actually consulting with someone over purchasing an insurance company, right? Because think about it, if we own the insurance company, we damn sure can call it annuities.
Pretty much, yeah. If you actually own the physical, yeah,
You
yeah,
feel
that's.
me? Yes. So that would be fucking awesome.
I would love to
Plus,
offer somebody a reward just for getting their weekly or their dental exam, right? Like
yeah. Yeah,
that'd be
exactly.
cool. So
You
that's
know what? Matter of
impact
fact,
though.
we'll give you a discount on health coverage if you pay with the Wave Health Coin.
Yeah, yeah. Like El Salvador, I'm really gonna take from their example in terms of
Yeah.
making it something that, like, you have to use Bitcoin or you have to use my token, and then I'll open it up and say, okay, now after 3 months, 7 months of service, whatever the case may be, okay, now I'll take USDC. Now I'll take whatever the
See,
case may
that's
be.
that's exactly the way I was thinking too, man. Because I was like, I'm not trying to be, because if you think about it, look, you have the asset, right? Let's say it's a house, let's say it's a car, or whatever the asset is, right? Then you digitize it, you create the token, the cryptocurrency for the asset, representing its worth or value,
And
and
that's
then
tokenization.
and yes, exactly, tokenization, and then someone purchases the asset or the token, which does what? Adds value, right? When you buy it, it goes up, and then they turn
Yep,
around and they exchange that asset back to you for the other product or asset, right? And so it's
yep, yep, yep.
it's like double payment. It's a good
And
way to add value to your asset. But then, eventually, you kind of feel like I felt like, well, if I just did that, I feel like I was greedy, it's like, so that's a good, yeah, just implement, okay, for this long, which would probably build the initial value of that asset in the first place, right? If you're
it
like, look,
does, actually. It does. And
yeah,
we're in the last 30 seconds. So I really
yeah,
just want to
yeah,
say,
let's,
Chris, man, I really appreciate you again, man. And we got so much to build
man,
and talk about.
I know,
Hit
I
me up
love it.
on Facebook after this, man. We got a couple of administrative things that I think would definitely benefit us.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. I like that. I love every session we have is awesome, man. Appreciate it.
Never a problem, brother. World Domination Hours. Joining the Wealth Wave was one of the best things
That's
we could
right.
have
Wave
done. So
makers,
I'm
baby.
really looking forward to the I'm looking really forward to the presentation that you're about to have. And I'm
We're
really
trying
looking
to we're
forward
trying
to
to get it all together as best as we can. Hopefully, you know, it's gonna go good. It's gonna go great. As a matter of fact.